Cartoon Network has a vault of things they do not want you to see, and regular show takes up a lot of space in there. This show was a masterpiece of weirdness, but it often crossed a line that forced international networks to pull the plug. Whether it was a character being sent to a void, or a wizard doing something gross in the bushes, the censors were always busy. Hands down, this is the most complete look at the forbidden side of the park. Things get even crazier when you realize how many countries flat out said no to these episodes. For starters, hands down the first season of this show was a wild ride that almost did not happen. The very first episode, called The Power, set the stage for years of trouble with the people in charge of what stays on TV. In this story, Mordecai and Rigby find a magical keyboard that lets them do anything they want. They end up sending their boss to the moon, which is funny, but the bad words were the real problem. In the original version, Rigby yells out some very strong words that usually are not allowed in cartoons for kids. Censors in the UK and Australia had to change these words to something much softer so the show would not get in trouble. There was also a scene with a wizard in the bushes that's just too much for some audience. The wizard was making very loud and gross noises that made it clear what he was doing, and many countries decided to cut that part out entirely. Even the songs had hidden jokes about the characters' bodies that were removed in international versions. Basically, the park was way more adult than anyone expected when it first started. Another huge moment in season 1 happened in the episode Meet Your Maker. This one is famous because it was actually banned in Spain for a long time. The story is about living hot dogs that Mordecai and Rigby find in the freezer. These hot dogs turn out to be very mean, and they start eating each other in a way that looks like cannibalism. They also try to eat the main characters after putting mustard on them. But it was so scary and gross, many parents complained that it was not right for a show rated for children. In the UK, they changed the word dead to unconscious just to make it sound less scary. Even the fire in the episode was cut down because it looked too dangerous. This was the first time the show really showed how dark it could get. That is putting it lightly because the show was just getting started for its weirdness. The episode about the unicorns is another classic example of things going way too far. These unicorns were not the nice kind you see in fairy tales. They were loud, they were mean, they did some very gross things on the lawn. They even tricked Mordecai and Rigby into doing things that were definitely not for kids. Because of this, several countries in Europe decided to ban the episode completely. They thought the unicorns were a bad influence on children because they acted like school bullies who also liked to party too much. I'm not gonna lie, seeing unicorns blow up at the end was probably the most intense part for the censors. But things get way darker when time itself starts to fall apart. Things get even crazier when we look at how different countries reacted to the second season. One of the most famous episodes to ever be censored is called It Is Time. In this story, Mordecai gets very jealous because Rigby is going on a date with Margaret. It gets so bad that Mordecai actually pushes Rigby into a giant clock that sends him into a time void. Inside that void, we see Rigby basically fall apart and disappear. Fans still argue about this today because it looks like Mordecai actually tried to finish off his best friend over a girl. In Australia, this episode was so controversial that they did not air it for a very long time. When they finally did, they had to cut out a lot of the violence and the scenes where characters were being very mean to each other. The Middle East also had huge problems with this episode. They had to change the voices and the words to make it seem like they were just having a small argument instead of a life-changing fight. What most people do not realize is that this episode changed how people looked at the main characters forever. Then there is an episode called Hello Governor. It features a creepy British taxi cab that stalks Rigby. In the full version, the taxi actually eats people and leaves their bones behind on the street. This was way too scary for many television networks. They had to cut the scenes where the taxi was attacking people so it would look more like a regular chase. Even the bad words like crap were changed to crud to keep the show safe for younger viewers. So here's the deal. The show was trying to be a horror movie while also being a comedy. The international bans did not stop there. The episode titled My Mom was banned in Australia because they thought the jokes about Muscle Man's mom were a form of bullying. They were worried that kids would start making mean jokes about each other's parents at school. It's funny because in the United States, those jokes are what made Muscle Man one of the most popular characters of the show. Everyone is obsessed with these jokes, but the censors thought they were a danger to society. Wait until you see why one character was banned for being too mean. Basically, as the show went on, the creators started testing the limits even more. In the middle seasons, we got episodes like Party Pete. This one had a scene where a character was dancing in a way that looked very suggestive. Censors in multiple countries had to reanimate the character so he was just moving his arms instead of his whole body. It sounds like a small change, but it shows how much the networks were watching every single frame of the show. I'm not gonna lie, the original dance was definitely not something you would want to explain to a 6-year-old. There was a lot of censorship involving how the characters talked to each other. Every time someone said they were ticked off, they had to make sure it did not sound like a worse word. In the episode Grilled Cheese Deluxe, there was a video of an ostrich hitting someone in a sensitive spot. That video was cut short in the United Kingdom because they have very strict rules about showing people getting hurt for laughs. They also had to be careful with any scenes that showed characters being too close to each other. That is putting it lightly because even a simple hug could sometimes get an episode flagged in certain regions. One of the weirdest bans happened with an episode involving a character named Thomas. It turns out that Thomas was actually a spy from another country. In Russia, they were very unhappy with how their country was being shown in the cartoon. They thought it was mean-spirited and made them look like the bad guys. Because of this, the episode was completely blocked from airing in Russia. Other countries nearby changed the name of the country to something fake just so they could still show the episode without making anyone angry. Things get even crazier when you realize the show is accidentally causing real-world drama. The show also had a lot of trouble with anything that looked like it was from a scary movie. In an episode about a haunted forest, the ghosts were so detailed and scary that some networks would only air the episode late at night. They did not want to give little kids nightmares about park rangers coming back from the grave. Most people do not realize that the creators actually wanted the show to be even scarier than what we saw. The biggest secret involves a country that actually thought the park was a threat. So here's the deal, the final seasons of Regular Show were a mix of epic space battles and even more censorship. When the show moved to HBO Max, many fans noticed that the versions of the episodes were different from the ones they remembered. The streaming service used the edited international versions for some episodes instead of the original American ones. This meant that fans were missing out on jokes and scenes that had been around for 7 years. It has been missing for years, but people are finally finding the original clips online again. One big change was how they handled the ending of the show. Because the finale was so emotional and involved characters going away forever, some countries felt it was too sad for children. They wanted the ending to be happier, so they cut out the parts that showed the characters feeling real pain or loss. This really bothered the fans because the ending was supposed to be a big goodbye to the characters they loved. Everyone is obsessed with the perfect ending, but the censors almost ruined it. Looking back, the history of Regular Show is a story of a show that refused to be boring. It fought against the rules every single day to bring something new to the screen. Whether it was a giant coffee bean or a god of basketball, the show always pushed the boundaries. Even though many episodes were banned or changed, the spirit of the park lived on. We can still see the influence of the show in almost every cartoon that has come out since it ended. Hands down, it is one of the most important shows in the history of animation. The thing is, we have to wonder if this all happens overnight or if there is a bigger plan. Are we missing a key detail about why these shows are so heavily watched? The park was a place where anything could happen, and that is exactly why the people in charge were so afraid of it. They wanted to keep things simple, but life is not simple. It's weird, it's messy, and sometimes it involves a magical keyboard that can send your boss to the moon. Basically, the banned list is just a map of all the times the show was being honest about how crazy the world can be. Was Cartoon Network right to hide these scenes from us, or should they have let the show stay wild? Tell us your favorite banned moments below. Like and subscribe for more secrets.